and welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie, and we're continuing our travels. And this week we traveled to Mexico. So books by Mexican authors are books that take place down there. So Jill, your first pick.
So my first pick is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This author might be familiar. She is the author of Mexican Gothic, which I also recommend, but I've recommended a million times before, so I'm going to talk about this book today.
I have her as a pick also.
The lavish historical drama reimagined the island of Dr. Moreau set against a backdrop of 19th century Mexico. Carlotta Moreau, a young woman growing up in the distant and luxuriant estate, safe from the conflict and strife from Yucatan Peninsula, the only daughter of either a genius or a madman. Montgomery Lawton, a melancholic overseer with a tragic past and a propensity for alcohol. An outcast who assists Dr. Moreau with his scientific experiments, which are financed by the Lizalds, owners of the magnificent haciendas and plentiful coffers. The hybrids, the fruits of the doctor's labors, destined to blindly obey their creator and remain in the shadows. A motley group of part human, part animal monstrosities, all of them living in a perfectly balanced and static world, which is jolted by the abrupt arrival of Eduardo Lizalde, the charming and careless son of Dr. Moreau's patron, who unwittingly began a dangerous chain reaction. For Moreau keeps secrets, Carlotta has questions. In the sweltering heat of the jungle, passions might ignite. So, Daughters of Dr. Moreau.
My first pick is The Hummingbird's Daughter by Luis Alberto Urrea. This was published in 2005. The prize-winning writer's novel is an epic mystical drama of a young woman's sudden sainthood in late 19th century Mexico. It is 1889 and the Civil War is brewing in Mexico. 16-year-old Teresita, illegitimate but beloved daughter of a wealthy and powerful rancher, wakes from the strangest dream, a dream that she has died. Only it was not a dream. This passionate and rebellious young woman has arisen from the dead with the power to heal. But it will take all her faith to endure the trials that await her and her family now that she has become the Saint of Cabora. The Hummingbird's Daughter is a vast, hugely satisfying novel of love and loss, joy and pain. It's the story of a girl coming to terms with her destiny, with the miraculous, and with the power of faith. It is the tale of a father discovering what true love is and a daughter recognizing that sometimes true love requires true sacrifice. So it sounded like an interesting book to me, The Hummingbird's Daughter.
The next one's off our new shelf. It's Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Canas. Vampires and vaqueros face off in a Texas-Mexico border in the supernatural Western from the author of The Hacienda. A supernatural Western.
There you go.
As the daughter of a rancher in 1840s Mexico, Nina knows a thing or two about monsters. Her home has long been threatened by tensions with Anglo settlers from the north. But something more sinister lurks near the ranch at night. Something that drains men of their blood and leaves them for dead. Something that once attacked Nina 9 years ago. Believing Nina dead, Nestor has been on the run from his grief ever since, moving from ranch to ranch, working as a vaquero. But no amount of drink can dispel the night terrors of Sharp Teeth. No woman can erase his childhood sweetheart from his mind. When the United States attacks Mexico in 1846, the two are brought abruptly together on the road to war. Nina as a curandera, a healer striving to prove her worth to her father so that he does not marry her off to a stranger, and Nestor as a member of the auxiliary cavalry of ranchers and vaqueros. But the shock of their reunion and Nina's rage at Nestor for seemingly abandoning her long ago is quickly overshadowed by the appearance of a nightmare made flesh. And unless Nina and Nestor work through their past and face the future together, neither will survive to see the dawn. So, a little bit of Halloween sticking around here.
Vampires, a Western. Oh, my goodness. My second pick is by the author that Jill used for her first pick. This is Silvia Moreno Garcia's Gods of Jade and Shadow, and this was published in 2019. The Mayan god of death sends a young woman on a harrowing, life-changing journey in this one-of-a-kind fairy tale, which is inspired by Mexican folklore. The jazz age is in full swing, but Cassiopeia is too busy cleaning the floors of her wealthy grandfather's house to listen to any of those fast tunes. Nevertheless, she dreams of a life far from her dusty small town in southern Mexico, a life she can call her own. Yet this new life seems as distant as the stars, until the day she finds a curious wooden box in her grandfather's room. She opens it and accidentally frees the spirit of the Mayan god of death, who requests her help in recovering his throne from his treacherous brother. Failure will mean Cassiopeia's demise, but success could make all her dreams come true. In the company of this strangely alluring god and armed with her wits, she begins an adventure that will take her on a cross-country odyssey from the jungles of Yucatan to the bright lights of Mexico City and deep into the darkness of the Mayan underworld. So this is actually on my list of books to read along with Mexican Gothic by this author. So
she's an author to watch.
Yeah, she certainly is. So check out some of our picks by her.
So my next pick, no book has ever made me understand Mexico more than American Dirt, which was hugely popular when it came out in 2020. This is by Janine Cummins, and I think it has a map in it, even, like, that has the different towns that they're in. And I actually referred to it because, like, they travel across Mexico, and it's great, actually. New York Times bestseller would give you a different understanding of the landscape of Mexico. Lydia lives in Acapulco. She has a son, Luca, the love of her life, and a wonderful husband who is a journalist. And while cracks are beginning to show in Acapulco because of the cartels, Lydia's life is by and large fairly comfortable. But after her husband's tell-all profile of the newest drug lord is published, none of their lives will ever be the same. Forced to flee, Lydia and Luca find themselves joining the countless people trying to reach the United States. Lydia soon sees that everyone is running from something, but what are they running to? So yeah, they jump on trains and stuff like that across the Mexico to get to American Dirt.
I haven't read it. I know it was very popular, and I know our book clubs read it. My third pick is Caramello by Sandra Cisneros. You might recognize her as the author of The House on Mango Street. This was published back in 2022. This is an extraordinary novel told in the language of a blazing multi-generational story of a Mexican-American family whose voices create a dazzling weave of humor and passion, the very stuff of life. Lala Reyes' grandmother is descended from a family of renowned rebozo, or shawl makers. The striped Caramello rebozo is the most beautiful of all, and the one that makes its way, like the family history it has come to represent, into Lala's possession. The novel opens with the Reyes' annual car trip, a caravan overflowing with children, laughter, and quarrels from Chicago to the other side, Mexico City. It is there each year that Lala hears her family's stories, separating the truth from the healthy lies that have ricocheted from one generation to the next. We travel from the Mexico City that was the Paris of the New World to the music-filled streets of Chicago at the dawn of the Roaring Twenties, and finally to Lala's own difficult adolescence in the not-quite promised land of San Antonio, Texas. It's a romantic tale of homeland, sometimes real, sometimes imagined. It's vividly funny, intimate, historical, and it was described as a brilliant work destined to become a major novel from one of our country's most beloved storytellers. So, Sandra Cisneros' Caramello.
Yes, that one is on my list as well. So my next one is called The Murmur of Bees by Sofia Segovia. This was translated by Simon Bruni. It was originally published in Spanish or whatever she speaks. From the beguiling voice of a Mexican fiction comes an astonishing novel, her first to be translated in English, about a mysterious child with the power to change a family's history in a country on the verge of revolution. From the day old Nana Reja found a baby abandoned under a bridge, the life of a small Mexican town forever changed. Disfigured and covered in a blanket of bees, little Simanopio is for some locals the stuff of superstition, a child kissed by the devil. But he is welcomed by landowners Francisco and Beatriz Morales, who adopt him and care for him as if he were their own. As he grows up, Simonopio becomes a cause for wonder to the Morales family, because when the uncannily gifted child closes his eyes, he can see what no one else can. Visions of all that's yet to come, both beautiful and dangerous. Followed by his protective swarm of bees and living to deliver his adoptive family from threats, both human and those of nature, Simonopio's purpose in Linares will in time be divined. Set against the backdrop of the Mexican Revolution and the devastating influenza of 1918, The Murmur of Bees captures both the fate of a country in flux and the destiny of one family that has put their love, faith, and future in the unbelievable. So, Murmur of Bees.
My next pick is Under the Mesquite by Guadalupe Garcia McCall. This was published back in 2011. Lupita, a budding actor and poet in a close-knit Mexican-American immigrant family, comes of age as she struggles with adult responsibilities during her mother's battle with cancer in this young adult novel in verse. When Lupita learns Mommy has cancer, she is terrified by the possibility of losing her mother, the anchor of her close-knit family. Suddenly, being a high school student, starring in a play, and dealing with friends who don't always understand becomes far less important than doing whatever she can to save Mommy's life. While her father cares for her mother at an out-of-town clinic, Lupita takes charge of her 7 younger siblings. As she struggles to keep the family afloat, she takes refuge in the shade of a mesquite tree, where she escapes the chaos at home to write. Forced to face her limitations in the midst of overwhelming changes and losses, Lupita rediscovers her voice and finds healing in the power of words. Told with honest emotion and evocative free verse, Lupita's journey towards hope is captured in moments that are alternately warm and poignant. Under the Mesquite is an empowering story about testing family bonds and the strength of a young woman navigating pain and hardship with surprising resilience. So this is in the YA section, Under the Mesquite. And it is written in prose. Yeah. Wow. So I thought that was an interesting pick in the YA collection.
Neat. I like those books that are written as big poems. So this next one kind of reminds me of the movie Coco. I don't know if you've seen it. It involves the Day of the Dead and ghosts and stuff, and so does this. Everyone Knows You Go Home by Natalia Sylvester. This actually is an International Latina Book Award winner, so it's a good one. Published in 2018. The first time Isabel meets her father-in-law, Omar, he's already dead, an apparition appearing uninvited at her wedding day. Her husband, Martin, still unforgiving for having been abandoned by his father years ago, confesses that he never knew the old man had died. So Omar asks Isabel for the impossible. Persuade Omar's family, especially his wife Elda, to let him redeem himself. Isabel and Martin settle into married life in a Texas border town, and Omar returns each year on the celebratory Day of the Dead. Every year, Isabel listens, but to the aggrieved Martin and Elda, Omar's spirit remains invisible. Through his visits, Isabel gains insight into not just the truth about his disappearance and her husband's childhood, but also the ways grief can eat away at love. When Martin's teenage nephew crosses the Mexican border and takes refuge in Isabel and Martin's home, questions about past and future homes, borders, and belonging arise that may finally lead to forgiveness and alter all of their lives forever. So Everyone Knows You Go Home. I love that movie, Coco.
Me too. My last pick is an older book. This is from 1989, and this is Laura Esquivel's Like Water for Chocolate. It was the #1 bestseller in Mexico and America for almost 2 years, and subsequently a bestseller around the world. It's a romantic tale touched with moments of magic, graphic earthiness, bittersweet wit, and recipes. A sumptuous feast of a novel, it relates the bizarre history of the all-female De La Garza family. Tita, the youngest daughter of the house, has been forbidden to marry, condemned by Mexican tradition to look after her mother until she dies. But she falls in love with Pedro, and he is seduced by the magical food she cooks. In desperation, Pedro marries her sister Rosara so that he can stay close to her. But Tita and Pedro are forced to circle each other in unconsummated passion. Only a freakish chain of tragedies, bad luck, and fate finally reunite them against all odds. So this was a popular book for, like they said, #1 bestseller for almost 2 years. So Like Water for Chocolate.
Awesome. Well, we hope that if you want to take a trip to Mexico, that we've helped you find some books that'll help you get there.
We've got some books by some pretty popular authors in our mix this week, so check them out at the Kimberly Library. You can find our videos on our Facebook page and on our website. And until next time, we thank you for watching. Bye!